She was young, hopeful, and full of life. A 20-year-old waitress with a bright smile and a dangerous secret. One cold December night, she vanished into the darkness and never came back. Her car was found abandoned at a desolate river landing. Her body was never found. The last person she spoke to, a married man. His wife had already discovered their affair. This is not just a missing person case. It's a tale of lies, control, and a love triangle that spiraled into one of South Carolina's most disturbing disappearances. December 18, 2013, just after sunrise. A green Dodge Intrepid sat abandoned at Peachtree Landing, a lonely boat ramp in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The area was still, covered in morning mist, with no sign of life. The vehicle was locked. No signs of struggle. No footprints in the mud. Inside, there was no phone, no purse, no keys. The car belonged to 20-year-old Heather. Heather was missing. Her disappearance would send shockwaves through the tight-knit coastal community. She wasn't a troubled runaway or a recluse. She was bubbly, warm-hearted, and full of energy. When she had recently started building a new life for herself, working 2 jobs and dreaming about her future. She had friends, family, and plans for tomorrow, but on this cold December morning, she had simply vanished. The night before, Heather had been in touch with friends. She'd even gone on a date with someone new. She had parked her car back at her home, sent a few text messages, and gone to bed. Everything was normal at around 1:35 a.m. when she received a call from a payphone near a gas station. After that call, Heather got into her car and drove off into the night. By morning, she was gone. As the hours passed and no one heard from her, her father, Terry Elvis, reported her missing. Search teams combed the woods, the river, and the area surrounding Peachtree Landing. Boats scanned the dark water while helicopters circled overhead. Flyers went up, and volunteers poured in. But there were no signs, no pieces of clothing, no belongings, no leads. And then Heather's phone records began to raise serious questions. Because that payphone call, the one she received at 1:35 a.m., had come from someone she knew, someone she had once trusted, someone who had promised to leave his wife for her. His name was Sidney Moorer. 6 months before Heather disappeared, her life took a turn she never saw coming. While working as a waitress at the Tilted Kilt, a Scottish-themed bar and restaurant, she met a man nearly twice her age, Sidney Moorer. He was a repair technician who visited the restaurant to fix equipment. He was charming, friendly, and had a subtle confidence about him. To Heather, he seemed like an escape from her stressful life. Soon, flirtation turned into late-night texts. Then came private meetings, gifts, and eventually a secret relationship. There was one problem: Sidney was married. Moorer was known by many to be jealous, controlling, and aggressive. When Tammy discovered the affair, her reaction wasn't just anger. She took Sidney's phone. She began monitoring his messages. She even handcuffed him to the bed at night. Reports later revealed she forced Sidney to tattoo her name just above his groin to ensure no other woman would ever be interested in him again. Tammy didn't stop at her husband. She turned her rage toward Heather. Multiple messages were sent to Heather from unknown accounts. Online harassment increased. Threats were made, some vague, some direct. Heather's car was vandalized. Her family grew worried, but Heather tried to downplay the danger. She believed the worst was behind her. By November 2013, Heather had cut ties with Sidney. She blocked his number and started focusing on her goals. She began dating again and told friends she was moving on. But privately, she still missed him. She confided to a friend that Sidney had once told her he wanted to leave Tammy and start a life with her. She wasn't sure if he meant it, but part of her wanted to believe. Then came December. Heather told a close friend that Sidney had been trying to contact her again. She was nervous. Something felt off. That night, the night she vanished, she received a call from a payphone. After Heather's disappearance, investigators began tracing her digital movements. The forensic analysis of her phone activity and surveillance footage revealed a chilling timeline. At 1:35 a.m. on December 18th, Heather received a call from a payphone located at a gas station near the Moorer home. Surveillance footage confirmed it was Sidney who made the call. He was wearing a hoodie and nervously looking around. Just minutes later, Heather left her apartment complex. Cell phone towers tracked her movement as bound toward Peachtree Landing. Her phone pinged there at 3:19 a.m., then it went silent. Forever, Sidney and Tammy, when questioned by police, gave conflicting statements. First, they claimed they were asleep all night. Then Sidney said he went out for groceries. Later, he said he just went to think. Tammy's story changed too. She claimed they were out looking at stars. But data didn't lie. Both Sidney's and Tammy's phones pinged near Peachtree Landing. On December 18th, just hours after Heather disappeared, Tammy deleted a series of texts. One of them said, "Heather is going to pay." When police searched the Moorers' home, they found even more suspicious details. Cleaning supplies had been purchased: bleach, rags, sandpaper items, not typical for a midnight grocery run. Tammy insisted they were remodeling. Work had been started. Forensic experts found no blood in their vehicle, no weapon, no body, just digital traces and circumstantial evidence. Still, it was enough to rattle investigators. Then, another layer emerged. Heather had recently taken a pregnancy test. The result wasn't public, but law enforcement believed the Moorers may have found out. Some investigators speculated that Sidney may have told Tammy Heather was pregnant with his child. If true, it could explain the motive. Tammy, already enraged and obsessed with control, may have seen Heather not just as a threat, but as someone who had to be erased. In February 2014, Sidney and Tammy Moorer were arrested and charged with kidnapping and obstruction of justice, but no murder charge could be filed because there was no body. Despite public outcry, the couple maintained their innocence. Case progressed. More shocking details surfaced about the Moorers' marriage. Their relationship wasn't just controlling, it was volatile and deeply toxic. Sidney appeared to be under constant surveillance. Tammy controlled his money, tracked his phone, and monitored his every move. He wasn't allowed to go anywhere. Alone, not even the store. Witnesses testified about Tammy's violent temper and emotional manipulation. She had publicly shamed Sidney on social media after discovering the affair. She made Heather the enemy and Sidney the slave to her rage. The prosecution painted a picture of a married couple driven by jealousy, pride, and paranoia. Heather's disappearance was not a spontaneous crime, it was premeditated, they argued. They pointed to the call from the payphone, the cell phone pings, the deleted messages, and the carefully cleaned car. But the defense clung to one argument: no body, no murder weapon, no physical evidence, and that for a long time kept the case. The trial stretched for years. Sidney was initially tried for obstruction of justice and indecent exposure, both unrelated charges. Later, his kidnapping trial began. In court, Sidney remained quiet, Tammy defiant. Their children sat silently, watching their parents unravel in front of the world, but the jury saw through the confusion. In 2019, 6 years after Heather Elvis disappeared, justice finally caught up with the Moorers. Sidney Moorer was found guilty of kidnapping and sentenced to 30 years in prison. Months later, Tammy Moorer received the same sentence. Both were convicted based on circumstantial evidence strong enough to convince a jury that they lured Heather to her death. Still, Heather's body was never found. Her family, especially her father, Terry Elvis, never gave up the search. Terry spent countless days at Peachtree Landing, walking the shoreline with dogs and search crews, hoping to find something, anything that could bring his daughter home. Every court date was a reminder of the truth they had to accept: Heather wasn't coming back. Tammy and Sidney never admitted guilt. To this day, they both insist they had nothing to do with Heather's disappearance. But their silence about what really happened speaks louder than any denial. In Myrtle Beach, Heather's name still echoes. A memorial bench sits near the place. Where her car was found, her photo, smiling and full of life, rests beneath a tree. Her family continues to advocate for missing persons awareness. They believe someone still holds the key to finding her remains. Heather Elvis's story is not just about a missing person. It's a warning about obsession, manipulation, and how secrecy can become a weapon. She was a daughter, a sister, a dreamer. She never imagined that a hidden romance could become a fatal trap. In the end, justice came not with closure, but with conviction. But the question remains, where is Heather Elvis?